Good morning, small baby humans. Today is Thursday, March 25th, and this is In Case You Missed American History. Well, if you're watching this, that means that you didn't make it to class today for some reason. Who knows? Internet was out. You weren't feeling good. Aliens abducted you, took you to your planet, and made you their emperor. I hope you got back safely. Well, I hope you're well. Hope those around you are well. And I hope that you have something interesting on slate for spring break. But if you don't, that's okay too. It's time to relax. Pick out something on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or Shudder or Peacock or any of their 9,000 streaming Disney Plus apps that we have now and go with it. I'm going to run you through everything we did today, give you some reminders. First on the reminder tip, tomorrow, which is Friday, at midnight, that's going to be the last late work I take for the quarter, or last work I take for the quarter. So please make sure that if you owe me things, I get those things by midnight tomorrow night. I really do want you to, do well. So, some of you guys have decided to wait till the last second to hand in a few things. And if that's your case, I need those things. Okay. There's no more waiting. So there you go. Don't forget about the In Your Lifetime assignment that we are working on. I've given you guys a lot of work time on that. I'm going to give you guys a lot of work time today. Tomorrow, pretty much the whole class is going to be work time on that and getting things wrapped up. So if you have any questions about anything, sorry, itch on my leg. If you have any questions about anything, please make sure and let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the major events that kind of led up to you. We're going to talk a little bit about the 1990s, and we're going to talk a little bit about the 2000s. Now, obviously, we've talked about some of these things in other units already. We talked a little bit about 9/11 on 9/11 if you were in first quarter. But we're going to do just a little recap and move. I'm not going to do as much with the In Your Lifetime part of things because you guys are covering that with your projects. So here we go. The 1990s, kind of taking not a year by year look because I skipped a few years in here. And again, remember what I said yesterday. It's hard to make sense out of history when you're living in it sometimes. I think maybe some of these things are getting a little bit clearer, but here we go. 1991, the United States got involved in a war in Iraq. Partially because the Iraqis were mistreating some of their neighbors who we were allies with, partially because their dictator leader, Saddam Hussein, was generally not a very good person. And depending on which version of the narrative you follow, maybe it had something to do with gas and oil prices too. Regardless, the Gulf War was really a show of modern technology. Yes, we had boots on the ground. Yes, there were soldiers there. Yes, there have been soldiers there several times since. But it really showed off a lot of our aerial technology, a lot of the things that we had that maybe some other places didn't have. The Gulf War started with a bombing in the city of Baghdad, and it was pretty much done live on radio. I was a junior in high school, supposed to be going out to basketball practice, and we were listening to the radio in the locker room, getting ready to go out because we had an area in our locker room where it's just a stretch and stuff like that, and we were stretching, and the radio cut to live broadcast of bombing, and we ended up being late to practice because we were so, oh crap. Seniors were like, oh God, do you think we're going to go to war? Am I going to get drafted? Regardless, our victory in the Gulf War was swift. There was a lot of discussion about the capabilities that Iraq had as far as are they a nuclear country? Are they making chemical weapons? Regardless, we're able to fix the situation, but not get Saddam Hussein out of office at that point. 1991, the internet becomes something that it becomes more accessible to people. Now, that early version of the internet was really simplistic, completely text-based. You had to do dial-up internet, which means you couldn't use your home phone or your landline. And this is before most people had cell phones. So it was great for finding information. It was not great for watching videos or finding memes or social media or streaming television services. None of that stuff existed. It was very, very primitive in the beginning. And 1991 is when Nirvana releases Nevermind. which introduces the rock world to grunge rock and more so to maybe mainstream alternative music. Music had kind of hit this phase where most music experts say things had gotten stale. Pop music was pop music. Hair metal was playing through. Rock music hadn't changed in a while. Country was starting to get a little bit more pop and a little bit more rock. Rap was going through a stage where you had gangster rap, but you also had like the top 40 rap type stuff. And it was kind of like everything stagnated. And then bands like Nirvana and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and to some extent the Nine Inch Nails kind of changed the sound, and it kind of reflects in a lot of things. 1992, Bill Clinton is elected president, a Democrat from Arkansas, kind of seen as like this common everyman, good guy. Bill and his wife Hillary and their daughter Chelsea. They're gonna come in and get some youth and some life to the White House. And Clinton did a lot of good things, but there was also some scandal that we're going to talk about a little bit later. In 1993, terrorists tried to bomb the World Trade Center by using a truck bomb, by bringing a truck that was basically rigged to explode and park it in an underground parking garage inside the center. That same year, how do I put this? Let's go with extremist cult that worshipped a guy named David Koresh that called themselves the Branch Davidians, had a run-in with the government. David Koresh believed himself to be kind of a god figure. There were a lot of sketchy things going on with women at the compound, children at the compound, but most definitely collections of guns and doomsday type stuff. And the government didn't like that. And so the government stormed the compound and everything kind of went sideways. A lot of it got put on TV, live TV, TV reports. And this kind of brought out some more distrust in the government because the government just stormed these people. But it brought out distrust in the government from people that were maybe more extremists, people that thought that Koresh's rights were being violated and these people had a right to live their life the way they wanted to, and they had a right to have all these guns if they wanted to. And so it really created a few problems in the way things went, which resulted in 2 years later, the Oklahoma City bombing. This building that you see right here is the Alfred P. Murrah building, or was the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City. Two domestic terrorists named Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols rented a truck, filled it full of fertilizer. That's nitrogen, by the way, that makes a bomb. And parked it in the parking garage. It was detonated and blew off basically half of the building, killing a bunch of federal workers and also destroying and killing a bunch of kids that were in a daycare almost directly above the building. It was a huge news story, obviously, not just that a federal building got blown up, but that so many people died, including children. Nichols and McVeigh were disgruntled with the government, didn't trust the government, felt the government was limiting people's rights, wanted to make a statement, wanted to really make the government pay. And blowing up the federal building was apparently the way that they were going to do that. It's kind of a dark day in American history. If you ever get to Oklahoma City, there's a monument at the spot. There's actually like these concrete chairs. And for every adult that was killed, there's a concrete chair at full size. For every kid, there's a smaller concrete chair. And if you ever get there and you look at it, it's really, I don't want to say it's creepy, but it's really sad to see the number of people that died in the Oklahoma City bombing. That same year, the O.J. Simpson trial happened. O.J. Simpson was a former football player, former actor, who was accused of killing his ex-wife, and her boyfriend. But before he was arrested, he led the Los Angeles County and California State Police on a low-speed chase in a white Ford Bronco that interrupted an NBA Finals game, if I remember correctly. We had to watch OJ's white Bronco move down the interstate, and in a small picture in the corner, we got to watch the NBA Finals. So kind of like my screen, but then, let me see if I can still reduce this. I don't think I can. Dang it. You were in a little box, okay, watching the game. Now, Obviously, it was a very public trial. Oh, hang on. It was a very public trial. It was televised. People had very strong opinions. People of different races felt different ways about the crime. There was a dramatic point in the crime where they claimed that this was the glove of the killer, and OJ couldn't get the glove on his hand. One of his lawyers said, if the glove does not fit, you must acquit. And eventually OJ was found not guilty. Now, he was sued civilly, that means for money for being responsible, and he was found liable for the deaths. So he was found not guilty of murder, but he was found responsible for the deaths in a civil quick case. For you guys, maybe the O.J. Simpson trial doesn't have any real lasting thing other than the following bit of information. One of the lawyers in the trial's last name was Kardashian. And thus, he became a lawyer to the stars, tons of money, TV appearances, and plastic surgeries for his daughters. And now some of you guys like to keep up with them. Terrible. Anyway, 1998, the Monica Lewinsky scandal happened. It turned out our boy Bill Clinton, who was in the White House, was having an inappropriate affair with a White House intern named Monica Lewinsky. Clinton swore he did not have sexual relations with that woman, but here, let's just do this. There we go. There's a lot of evidence to the contrary. The Monica Lewinsky scandal, along with some possibly crooked real estate deals and some other government stuff, led Clinton to be impeached. That's right. We've had a lot of these recently. Led Clinton to be impeached. He was found not guilty and completed his term as the president. In 1990, one of the more oh crap moments of the last 25 years happened with the Columbine High School shooting. Dylan Klebold and Aaron Harris, members of a group of people that called themselves the Trench Coat Mafia, were disgruntled with the way that they were being treated and being ignored at their high school, the way that certain kids were seen as better and more important. And so they collected guns and made homemade bombs and went bowling in the morning, and then went to their school and shot up the place, killing a bunch of kids, teachers, causing a huge amount of damage before they were killed themselves. It wasn't the first modern school shooting, but it's probably the most famous one, aside from maybe Sandy Hook and Stoneman Douglas. Those are considered to be big ones. But Columbine was the first kind of like TV cameras, people running out of the building, interviewing students, weapons that high school kids shouldn't have, kind of shooting, where it got major TV coverage. And then there was an outcry afterwards about what caused this, and a lot of people blamed the Columbine shooting on violent video games and rock music, Marilyn Manson in particular, if you know who that is. Regardless, this kind of started off a string of school violence, school shootings. And actually, I was looking at Wikipedia the other day because someone brought up the Sandy Hook shooting and the Stoneman Douglas shooting. And I looked at this Wikipedia page on like school shootings since Columbine. And it just went on and on and on and on. And after this, that's when we started having the lockdown drills and talking about where in the room we would have to hide, and talking about whether it was safe to break the window and go outside, or, fight or flee or hide. And it really kind of changed the narrative at schools as far as safety and security and carrying around backpacks, and the way that we used to view school as a safe space, and now it's not always that way. All right. The 2000s. George W. Bush was elected president in the year 2000. That is the son of George Bush Sr. So we have a father-son team in the White House. Not too long after Bush becomes president, 9/11 happens. Now, I talked a lot about 9/11 first quarter, but for those of you guys who don't know, a group of terrorists that called themselves Al-Qaeda hijacked planes and used the planes like bombs. The World Trade Center was a major financial institution, had a lot of major businesses, a lot of just financial importance, seen as almost like a financial capital of our country. The morning of 9/11, the hijackers got on passenger planes, hijacked the planes using box cutter knives and other kind of could get through security at the time weapons. And the first plane crashed into the first tower. Minutes later, a second plane crashed. A third plane crashed into the Pentagon, where most of the brains of the U.S. military are housed. And a fourth plane that was probably headed for the U.S. Capitol or the White House, the passengers on board fought to retake the plane, and the plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. President Bush was in Florida reading to little kids at a school when he was informed. The day got progressively weirder from there as the towers fell with people still trapped inside. A lot of people died, and we began what was called the War on Terror, fighting in numerous places to try to take down groups like Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, terrorist groups in Iraq that were involved. And really as part of the War on Terror in 2003, Saddam Hussein was captured for harboring terrorists and other crimes against humanity, and he was executed. I'll tell you, probably the biggest thing, obviously other than the day, is kind of the way life has changed. You used to be able to do things go to a Bucks game without having to walk through a metal detector. You could walk your family member all the way to the gate at an airport. You didn't have to take your shoes off, full body scans. You used to be able to carry shampoo bottles onto airplanes that were like normal size shampoo bottles. And I know this sounds like I'm being stupid, but an inconvenience over such a big event. But the event itself is this huge thing. The way it impacted life afterwards is also big, but you guys don't know about life before this. So like, for instance, when I fly, I have to carry a note with me in case my left knee, because I have pins and screws in my knee, in case my knee sets off metal detectors, because I've actually set off the metal detector in the Atlanta airport before. And I had to get searched, not like strip search, but they're like, why are you on? I'm like, I don't know. And they went over my body and they got my knee, and I was wearing shorts, and I'm like, I have had a surgery. I have screws and pins in my knees. The international airports classically have their metal detectors turned up pretty high. 9/11 is probably the weirdest day of my life. As a teacher and as a person, it's something I will never forget. If I were rating my top three things in my lifetime, I think 9/11 would probably be number one, even ahead of COVID. I definitely think it would be number one. In 2003, we had a second space shuttle explode. I actually have the newspaper over on the wall over there. It was the space shuttle Columbia. And after that, we kind of started phasing out the space shuttle program. Somewhere in here, in the next couple of things, you were born. 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit and almost wiped out the city of New Orleans, causing huge amounts of damage. There were outcries that the government wasn't helping enough, and part of the reason that the government wasn't helping enough because a lot of New Orleans is black. And so we had a huge natural disaster that the country tried to pull together to help people. Some people from New Orleans were brought to Wisconsin to stay in temporary shelters, and people opened their homes and sent semi-loads of toilet paper and soap and medical supplies and cleaning supplies and things like that. Cripes, Tide even made these semis that had washers and dryers built in the sides so that people in New Orleans could do their laundry for free. It was a terrible thing, but watching the way that the country could pull together when something went wrong was great. But then there was this undercurrent of, is race an issue in the way that things are being done? Now, maybe you were born after that. 2005 kids, you might have been, right around Katrina. You 2006 kids, you were born afterwards. And now we're in your life, where you know a lot of things probably. A couple of highlights: in 2011, the terrorist Osama bin Laden that was in charge of Al-Qaeda and responsible for the 9/11 attacks was killed by Navy SEALs. We tracked him down, sent a SEAL team in at night, and they eliminated the target. In 2013, terrorists set off bombs at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. pressure cooker bombs, and other various explosives that killed a bunch of spectators, some racers, and some of the race workers around the finish line. Obviously, in 2016, Donald Trump was elected, and we've had a lot of things happen in the last few years. Black Lives Matter, the COVID virus, Biden being elected president, Kamala Harris being the vice president. But I'm hoping that you guys are covering some of those things in your projects. Now, this is the last time you have to listen to me talk for a long amount of time. I hope that I didn't steal your soul at any point during the year, bore you to death. I want you guys to know tomorrow we are going to have class. We're going to talk about a few things at the start, and I'm going to let you guys finish up your projects. I hope you get something out of it. All right. If you have any questions about anything you need to do or get done before midnight tomorrow, please let me know. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.